Okay, we have quorum now. Welcome and good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, March 21st. I hereby call the Insurance Subcommittee to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Representatives Capley, Sapicki, Himmer, Hicks, Kumar, Lafferty, Martin, Mitchell, Rudd, Rudder, Terry, Chairman Haynes.
Here.
Chairman Haynes, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we get started, are there any personal orders? Seeing none, we have 15 bills on the calendar this week. First up is item number 1, House Bill 885 by Chairman Hawk. We have a proper motion and second.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. The amendment that we filed with the committee is an old amendment, but I believe that we have come to some type of a positive resolution with all interested parties on prior authorization, which is what this piece of legislation is. I can go into the detail of what I know at the moment, and with the discretion of this committee that may be closing very soon, would like the opportunity to pass this on to full committee and discuss the amendment further there.
Without objection? Does anyone have any objection? Okay, all those. Okay. Okay, I think we need to put on the old. Do you want to put the old amendment on?
Let's do it. The
Okay.
old amendment that we filed with the committee is drafting code 5226.
Okay, I've got that. Do I have a motion and second on the amendment? We have a motion and second on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Chairman, you are recognized on the bill as amended.
And thank you. And I understand we're asking for for a lot of grace with this committee as we describe prior authorization. You all have had hearings about what prior authorization is. You know that that is requirements of a physician to get prior authorization before they conduct certain services. Insurance companies and medical providers have been discussing this for years. How do we make this come to a reasonable solution for both sides? I will tell you that the amendment that has been decided upon, drafting code, is 6318. I believe both the insurance companies and the providers have come together and sung Kumbaya at the table. I know the attorneys are happy to hear this. And that's the amendment that we'll be running through full committee. But just for timing and sake of making progress and moving this legislatively forward, I would ask to move the bill to full committee, and we'll have a full discussion next week, Madam Chair and members.
Thank you. Chairman Sapicki, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just for clarity, because I think we just heard the heavens part, you said the healthcare industry and insurance agreed? For clarification?
You're recognized.
And pigs are flying as we speak at this moment as well. So
Wow.
I believe. So.
I can't wait to see the amendment.
Any further questions? Chairman Rudd.
I'm trying to get caught up here now. The one that you're not attaching, you're still negotiating with. That is the one that was attached in the Senate,
You're recognized.
That is correct. Yes.
which is the one the two parties agree on right now, or for the most part.
That is correct.
Okay. But that's not what's attached.
That is correct as well.
All right. Thank you.
Representative Himmer.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Thank you, Representative. Can you repeat the bill amendment number
I will.
again, please?
The amendment number, I believe, that we're working off of, that we had filed with this committee, 5226 is the drafting code that may be part of your
Okay. I'm sorry,
calendar.
the new amendment.
The new amendment, and the discussion was had, I made the comment, adopted in the Senate. It may not even have been adopted in the Senate yet, because this is brand new language as of just a few hours ago. The drafting code of that is 6318.
318, okay. Thank you. I look forward to reading that. I know the committee closing, giving a little bit of grace, as you mentioned. I know this is a very technical and serious topic that it cites a lot of passion. So I want to make sure we look it over, and something I care deeply about as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Hawk.
And thank you, Chair Lady. And to the members, this is an odd request. I normally don't make this. I certainly come to this committee fully prepared and have been in your seats before, working with this particular issue. So you have my assurance that I expect you to hold my feet to the fire, and we will do exactly what we have said. So with that
Thank you.
explanation, Madam Chair.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor of sending House Bill 885 as amended to insurance full signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Bill goes to insurance full.
Thank you, Chair Lady. See you next week.
Thank you. Item number 2 is House Bill 186 by Chairman Whitson. We have a proper motion and second. Chairman, I have an amendment. Drafting code is 6165.
That's correct, Madam Chairman.
Do we have a motion and second on the amendment? We have a proper motion and second. Chairman, we're going to go ahead and vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Chairman, you're recognized on your bill as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chairman Committee. This is the first time in my whole service up here in the General Assembly for 7 years to be before this committee. And thank you for this opportunity. House Bill 186 creates a 2-year pilot program administered by TennCare that provides supplemental payments to hospitals and ambulatory surgical centers for the vagus nerve stimulation therapy device implanted into TennCare members. A vagus nerve stimulation therapy device is a device that is implanted in the left chest area with a lead wire surgically connected to the left vagus nerve that sends mild electric pulses to the brain to control seizures. That's all I know about medicine, but it is used to last resort treatment for those suffering from drug-resistant epilepsy. Creating a 2-year pilot program is intended to create an outcome that provides hospitals with the confidence they need to begin offering the surgery, as there is no stopgap to prevent financial losses, and provide a 2-year window for patients and families to have greater access to the therapy and ongoing maintenance. With that, ma'am, I renew my motion.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members? Representative Lafferty?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious. I imagine this procedure's been done for a while. Do you know anything about the results? How well it works? What the rate? I'm not even sure the right term I'm looking for here, but how effective it is with
Chairman
these
Whitson?
folks?
Chairman Whitson?
I had a brief conversation with Dr. Terry last night. He said he did these, and I said, does it work? He said, that's why I keep doing them. So that's the extent I know about it, sir.
Thank you
Good
for that.
question, though.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions? Representative Capley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, this would actually bring costs down as far from an overall perspective, because this would eliminate some of the ER visits and stuff like that. Is that correct?
That's correct. If I could read a brief statement in my notes, it says it'll save the state money. While the DRE is a small patient population, there's only about 100 in the TennCare community. Their outgoing care is very expensive. From a 9-month TennCare data pool in 2015, TennCare paid out $25 million in direct and indirect costs to cover 100 of the most expensive DRE members. Numerous health economic studies have proven that the vagus nerve therapy device pays for itself within 1 to 2 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we are voting on House Bill 186. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill goes to insurance full.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and committee.
Item number 3 is House Bill 567 by Chairman Carringer. We have a proper motion and second. I see you have an amendment. So drafting code 5644.
That's correct.
We'll go ahead and vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Chairman, you are recognized on your bill as amended.
Thank you, Chairman and committees. And yes, the amendment does rewrite the bill also. So what House Bill 567, it's a bipartisan measure that is intended to help Tennessee most at-risk mothers and babies by establishing a TennCare pilot program that provides remote monitoring for mothers in high-risk pregnancies or pregnant mothers that live in counties that do not have a licensed OB/GYN that participates in TennCare. What this bill would do would utilize digital technology to collect the mother and baby's medical and health data through devices that, among other things, may conduct fetal monitoring, including maternal heart rate, fetal heart rate, amniotic fluid, placenta location, fetal presentation, and the like. Also measure physiological data, including blood pressure, pulse oximetry, weight, blood glucose levels, and etc. Also, it utilizes remote non-stress or ultrasound technology. The ones that would be eligible for this are mothers on TennCare that are referred by their provider, and their MCO determines that they either have a high-risk pregnancy, including factors such as pre-existing health conditions, age, lifestyle, or other health conditions, or live in a county without an OB/GYN that participates in TennCare. The program will continue for up to 12 months postpartum. Why this bill is needed is because, according to the March of Dimes, 210,000 Tennessee women live in maternity care deserts or counties, and that was alarming and surprising to me. But it's where access to maternal health care is limited or absent. Others who live closer to care may struggle to access care if they cannot take off work, lack reliable transportation, or cannot find child care. And for those women, this bill would be critical. And so with this explanation, I will renew my motion and stand for questions on this bill.
Thank you. Any questions from members? Question has been called. Without objection, we're voting on House Bill 567 as amended. We already did it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill goes to insurance full.
Thank you so much.
Item number 4 is House Bill 953 by Chairman Boyd. It has been taken off notice. Item number 5 is House Bill 1087 by Chairman Baum. We have a motion and a second. Chairman, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. TennCare is in the process of disenrolling over 300,000 of its patients. We've heard a little bit about this in the Finance Committee in some of our budget hearings. Some of you may have heard this in some other committees, but it hasn't received a lot of discussion at this point. It actually starts in just a few days on April the 1st and will continue for almost 3 years through November of 2025. I am offering you this bill as a way to soften that blow. This bill would do that by expanding TennCare on a temporary basis. Here's how it would work. It wouldn't affect individuals who are currently eligible for TennCare, but it would provide an expanded category where individuals could receive these benefits on a temporary basis. There'd be 2 time limits. The first time limit would be that you couldn't receive the temporary TennCare benefits for more than 12 consecutive months, or number 2, for more than 5 years over the remainder of your life expectancy. Just as a brief review, the federal government pays 9 out of every $10 for Medicaid expansions. The state and local governments are responsible for the last dollar. 40 states have expanded. That became 41 just a few weeks ago when North Carolina expanded. Many of the more recent expansions have been Republican-led. They've often come with work requirements. Those have actually been unsuccessful for a host of reasons. This is actually a novel approach. It would be expansion where those additional benefits would be offered to individuals only on a temporary basis. No other state would have an expansion like that, but it would be a way of controlling cost, and it would be a way of preventing chronic dependency on the government because it wouldn't be a perpetual entitlement. Let me also comment on our block grant program. Tennessee has a very successful Medicaid block grant program where we're receiving dollars from the federal government because we spend less on a per patient basis than the federal government allows. We've taken those dollars and we spent them a year ago on providing a year of maternal coverage, increased it from 60 days to 12 months. We also added dental coverage. I think we're looking for a way to spend those savings this year as well. And one of the ideas I've heard discussed is providing 2 years of free diapers. This bill would complement the block grant program. It wouldn't replace it. The savings from the expanded population would go to the state as well. Let me close with this. We have some hospitals, particularly rural hospitals, that are under financial duress. Some of them are under the threat of closure. It would help these hospitals to have a larger fraction of their patients who are paying patients. I don't think providing 2 years of free diapers will help those rural hospitals. But if you can even throw in a year's worth of toothpaste under our dental plan, and that's the kind of stuff that's not going to help rural hospitals. But I think that if we increase the number of patients who have health insurance and can pay for services at those rural hospitals, then we can help make them solvent. This again is a way to soften some of the changes coming to TennCare, all in a way that doesn't provide chronic government dependence. And I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Have questions from members? Chairman Kumar, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Baum, for bringing this. So the only people who would be eligible for this program are those who are going to be disenrolled.
You're recognized.
That's a good question, and the answer is no. This program provides an expansion. I suspect that many of those who will be disenrolled will fall into this expanded category, but not necessarily all. Just as a hypothetical, it's possible you could have someone who is on TennCare right now, gets a job making $100,000. They're not going to qualify for this expanded category. So to answer your question again, those who are being disenrolled would not automatically move into this expanded category. I think many of them would, but not all automatically, no.
Chairman Kumar.
I understand certainly those people who are disenrolled because of increase in their income would not be able to use this program. So how long will this program last? Is it a pilot?
The proposal is for the expansion to be permanent, but for the benefits to be paid with these time limits. So no one person receives the benefits for more than 12 consecutive months, no more than 5 years over the remainder of their life expectancy. Let me add this, though, to maybe kind of help answer that question or the first question. TennCare is in the process of disenrolling about 325,000 recipients. This plan's expansion would result in an increase in enrollment of about 340,000 individuals. That's not on a one-to-one basis. They're not necessarily the same people. I suspect there's a lot of overlap. But this program would this bill would essentially keep TennCare about the size that it's been, let's say, the last year or two.
Chairman Kumar.
So this program will use the savings that we have achieved through our waiver program, the TennCare waiver or block grant program.
Savings are available through the block grant program. This bill does not define exactly what dollars are used to fund the program, but I am aware that those savings dollars are available, and I know that I've kind of mentioned it once or twice, but let me provide a few more details. I think the governor's proposal is to provide 2 years of diapers for recipients. So I'm just going to give you some quick math. I've seen some newspaper articles that say that diapers cost $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year. Let's say $1,000 a year. Well, if we've got 100,000 kids on TennCare, infants, I don't mean kids, infants who use diapers, then that's $100 million right there. So I get the impression that we've got savings from the block grant. We're looking for ways to spend it. Last year, we liked the ideas of providing a year's worth of maternal care and dental care. We got more savings this year. We're trying to figure out how to spend them. And the current proposal is diapers.
Chairman Kumar.
Thank you. Last question. So what is the difference between conventional TennCare expansion and this program?
The difference is conventional TennCare expansion is an entitlement program where the individuals who qualify can remain on it indefinitely. This is not an entitlement program, and I'm defining that to mean that you can't stay on it perpetually. It's just a boost. It's just a small helping hand. You wouldn't be eligible for the temp TennCare benefits for more than 12 months. In other states, you can remain on the Medicaid program indefinitely as long as you qualify.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Chairman Sapiki, and then I'll get you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a couple questions, trying to clarify this. So if we're potentially using, and I don't know if you answered this right or the way you thought, why are we required, if we're going to use Tennessee money, why are we required to submit a waiver for our block grant?
Chairman Bond. Chairman Bond.
With the block grant, you get the federal dollars. The federal dollars are 9 out of every $10. Let's say 90% of the cost of this program would be paid for by the feds. Only 1 out of every $10, 10% would be paid for by the state or state and local governments. So by going through the federal government, we get that 9-to-1 match.
Chairman Sapiki.
So for clarity, this is expansion to our TennCare program because we're asking a waiver so we can submit money to draw more money down. So it is an expansion to our program, correct?
It is an expansion. The difference in traditional expansion is there are these 2 time limits. It's sort of a different version of other expansions in that there are 2 time limits.
Chairman Sapiki.
And then last question here, in the summary of the bill, it says that the present law prohibits the governor from making any decision or obligating the state of Tennessee in any way with regard to the expansion of optional enrollment in the Medicaid program pursuant to the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act unless authorized by joint resolution of the General Assembly. This bill removes that provision. Is that true?
I think so, because that provision would have to be removed in order for these provisions to be enacted.
So just one more, I'm
Chairman
sorry.
Sapiki.
So if we pass this bill, then a governor could enroll Tennessee in the Affordable Care Act without the General Assembly having to come in behind them and approve that, correct? If we remove that provision.
I think if I understand the legal code correctly, I think the answer is yes. I think that prohibition would necessarily have to be removed for a plan like this to be approved.
Thank you.
Representative Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is just good math. Currently, we've got this savings from the block grant, and either we can keep doing what we're doing and we can get $67 from the feds out of every 100, or we can get $90 out of every 100. What he's proposing here, like he said, it's temporary, but it's just good math. It just makes sense. If we want to be good stewards of Tennessee taxpayers' money, what he's proposing here is a no-brainer. I mean, he's come up with a way to put guardrails that's been some of your concerns. He's put guardrails around it, and he's got a way to bring more money into this state to save small town hospitals. I'm for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Lafferty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for my knowledge, not having been around here as long as some other folks, did TennCare start as a temporary program? I don't know if that's for the sponsor or for someone else in general, maybe somebody in legal, or anybody help me with that?
Chairman Bong, can you answer that?
I can tell you this, every state has a Medicaid program. TennCare is just the name of Tennessee's Medicaid program. I don't know of a state that doesn't have a Medicaid program. So I think the answer is TennCare was not a temporary program in the sense that Tennessee was always going to have a Medicaid program.
Chairman Lafferty.
So it was, all right, it started to help the least among us. It's a lot of states do that. It's a good thing. I think most Tennesseans are okay with that posture. But these programs do tend to draw in folks that can otherwise take care of themselves. I was in the insurance business briefly, wasn't my cup of tea, but I literally had people that I was trying to sell insurance policies to tell me, well, no, I can just keep my income beneath a certain threshold, take cash on the side for other jobs, and stay on the rolls. Anything that's going to, I hate to sound like the bad guy, but anything that's going to increase the size of our government, especially our healthcare bureaucracy, I'm going to have a hard time supporting, especially if it's going to be setting up the possibility that down the road, a future governor could enroll us in Obamacare. So I'm sorry, but I won't be able to support your bill today. Thank you.
Chairman Baum.
I guess a couple of responses. One, I think if you like this idea and you wanted to give it a try, you could apply the prohibition on future governors right after the bill passes. I think the time limits are designed to keep individuals from saying, hey, I'm going to keep my income low so that I can stay on government assistance. The intent would be for individuals to know that this is just a helping hand. You're not going to be on these benefits for more than 12 months in the expanded category. That's no long-term plan. If you've got the opportunity to go out and get a job and work, best go ahead and do it.
Chairman Lafferty? Okay. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we are voting on House Bill 1087. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bill fails.
Thank you all.
Item number 6 is House Bill 762 by Chairman Eldridge. It's been taking off notice. Item number 7 is House Bill 1173 by Representative Hale. We have a motion and a second. I see that you have an amendment. We have a motion and second on the amendment. The drafting code I have is 5812. Is that correct?
That's correct.
We have a proper motion and second on the amendment. We're voting on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The amendment is on the bill. You're recognized on the bill as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady and committee. Of course, the amendment rewrites the bill. This bill will allow funeral directors and funeral establishments to ask life insurance companies for certain information, certain questions about coverage of a deceased person. If this bill passes, a funeral director would be able to ask whether the deceased has a life insurance policy, whether the benefit amount is enough to cover the planned funeral arrangements, and whether the individuals who are requesting the information in conjunction with the funeral director are indeed the beneficiaries under the policy. After receiving a valid request, the life insurance company has 5 days to respond with the information. However, before the funeral director can discuss the financial arrangements for burial of the deceased, he or she is required to inform the beneficiaries in writing that they have no legal duty to spend the life insurance policy money on the funeral. So with that, I ask for a positive recommendation from the committee, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that explanation. Do we have questions from members? Chairman Kumar, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for bringing this bill. You have knowledge of the industry that most of us don't. What happens in a situation that a person does not have financial means in their will and nobody to pay for the funeral expenses?
Representative Hill, you're recognized.
That happens quite often, Representative Kumar. we do a lot of charity work through the year that the county may give us sometimes as small as $250, and we have to do something with it to take care of someone. So those things happen. But in this case, we're just simply asking for the insurance company this information. And some people don't have a life insurance policy. And then we're, those saying, trying to pull teeth just to come up with enough to be able to honor and respect their loved one.
Chairman Kumar.
So the county, not every county does that probably, and there is no 10 care program for that.
Right.
I'm just surprised or overwhelmed by the fact that the last rites to a life lived are important, and what happens. There's a lot of uncertainty about it. Yeah. Well, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Mitchell, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So what role does the agent that sold the policy to this individual's family play in this situation?
Representative Hale.
That would totally be however the company actually handles their claim process. We would be required to notify the insurance company, which is normally the claims department. Then if they handle their claims in communication with their individual agent, then they would handle it that way, and they would be the ones that would give us the information. But in going through this process, we have included, this has been an intense working between lobbyists, various insurance companies, a very well worked out process. Department of Commerce and Insurance has been involved with this. So all parties involved have come to the table and had input and brought that. But the way they handle that, we would send the information in, and then if they let the individual agent, for instance, Farm Bureau usually has local agents, but yet the claims process is handled through their claims office.
Representative Mitchell.
Well, it just seems to me, agent means agency. So that person is a representative of that company who sold that policy, who's obligated to make sure, they've got the paperwork of who the beneficiary is and all of that. And, I'm sitting here looking at a letter from the industry, the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors of Tennessee that are opposing this bill. It just seems like there's an agency contract that's already been made, and now you're asking the legislature to make a contract between XYZ funeral home and beneficiaries. And I just don't think that's the role of government to get involved in a private business transaction. That just doesn't make sense. That it's kind of like if somebody comes into your business and you want to check their bank account before you sit down to do business with them. I don't have that right in my business to, let me check your bank account before we go forward here. So that being said, sorry, I'll just have to oppose this one. Thank you.
Chairman Hicks.
Thank you, Chair Lady and Representative Hale. Thank you for bringing this. Just a couple questions. So once a person has passed, and so the family, do they have to sign a waiver to allow the funeral director to be able to contact the insurance company to make for the benefit? Is that, I mean, they can't just arbitrarily call them up and say, hey, how much do this gentleman or lady have coverage for?
Representative Hill.
To respond to that, and also to Representative Mitchell, the thing is, agents do not determine claim benefits. Claim department There's usually a claim examiner and all of that. But the way this would work, to get to your question, Representative Hicks, is when we meet with a family, the family would sign, when we make arrangements, they have a statement of goods and services. They would sign that funeral agreement, funeral bill. Then there's also in the working, and this with the lobbyists and insurance companies and all parties that have been involved in this, and some maybe slept through the process, let it slide through and didn't get notified. But it's been an ongoing process. But what would happen, there's going to be a standardized form that will be available through the regulatory board, which would be our Robert Gribble, also the State Funeral Directors Association, that those, there's going to be a standardized form that all parties would sign. The funeral director would sign requesting this information with the policy number and all this. That way they're not getting 100 different forms from different funeral homes. It would be a standardized form that would be, would state out, and then it would be signed. If there's 10 kids, all 10 kids sign that. We don't know who the beneficiary is. And a lot of times when a family comes in, they don't know who the beneficiary is. So that way, and sometimes even the agent may not know because there's been a change of beneficiary that's been done through the home office. So all of that is handled through the claims, and that gives them that 5-day window to make sure who the beneficiary is and all that, and then they respond back to us. But there would be a signed contract, and then this request form would be signed by all parties involved also.
Chairman Hicks,
Thank you.
do we have any further questions? Chairman Lafferty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just curious on this form, is the insurance company going, let me back up. Is the funeral home going to ask the insurance company, is there this much money to cover this expense? Or is it going to be, hey, what are the limits of this policy?
Representative Hill.
It specifically says in the bill that they will only tell us if it will cover the funeral expenses or not. We don't care if they've got $100,000 or whatever. We just want to know that it covers this amount of, that the amount of insurance will cover this funeral. What they've got above that is totally, it's none of our business. We're just trying to verify the information to know that we're secure in providing that service.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any further questions? Seeing none, we're voting on House Bill 1173. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Sorry, the bill fails.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Lady, and Committee.
Item number 8 is House Bill 360 by Representative Love. It has been taken off notice. Item number 9 is House Bill 362 by Representative Love. It has been taken off notice. Item number 10 is House Bill 1443 by Representative Parkinson. It has been taken off notice. Item number 11, House Bill 1432 by Representative Dixie. It's been taken off notice. Item number 12 is House Bill 1402 by Representative Johnson. We'll roll that to the Hill. Item number 13 is House Bill 874 by Chairman Lafferty. We have a proper motion and second. Chairman, I see you have an amendment.
Yes, ma'am. That's amendment number 5208,
Yeah.
just a grammatical issue.
Okay, we have a motion and second on the amendment. Chairman, the amendment, does it make the bill or does it?
No,
Okay,
let me double check. I think it's just fixes some wording in there.
okay.
It corrects a typo in section E.
We'll still go ahead and vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Chairman, you can explain your bill as amended.
Hey, thank you for that. Committee, this is a bill that will allow a laboratory that is not inside a network for an insurer to be utilized from time to time. Right now, most of your lab work is funneled. The healthcare providers will funnel those to an individual laboratory. And those labs, obviously, they provide discounts for the bulk orders and everything. As long as there is a provider that is willing to accept what the insurers are paying, then this bill will allow a doctor's office or a hospital to use a laboratory that is not in that network. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from members? Question has been called. Without objection, we're voting on House Bill 874. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill goes to insurance full.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee.
Okay. Item number 14 is House Bill 916 by Chairman Rudder. We will roll that to the Hill. Item number 15 is House Bill 920 by Chairman Rudder. It has been taken off notice. We're going to try to get somebody to find her. Okay. We're going to take a brief recess.
We don't have to do a whole minute.
We are back in session. We are on item number 14, House Bill 916 by Chairman Rudder. We have a proper motion and second. I see you have an amendment. Can you verify your drafting code?
I do have an amendment. Okay, yeah, I got an amendment. Okay, amendment number 5100
We have a
is
motion
the
and
first
second.
amendment,
We have a motion and second on the amendment. We do.
and the second amendment is 6048.
Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll do the first one. We're going to vote on the First Amendment with the drafting code 5100. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Opposed? Amendment 5100 is on the bill. We also have a second amendment that is untimely filed because this is our last calendar. Without objection, we'll vote on that amendment. Drafting code 6048. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Both amendments are on the bill. Chairman, you're recognized on the bill as amended.
This bill was a bill that we talked about a lot last year, but we never brought it to committee. It's a very important bill. It's called the white bagging bill. This bill seeks to address unfair payer practices such as white bagging that puts patients at risk and shifts reimbursement from the contracted provider to insurer-owned companies. White bagging is an arrangement between insurance companies and selected pharmacies to ship a patient's medication directly to the site of care, whose staff then is required to take whatever the next steps may be to prepare and administer this medication. These arrangements take control away from our patient's care team or our hospitals or infusion care centers, wherever this medication may be administered. It can lead to waste. It can lead to dangerous medical errors and can potentially create delays that the patient is very valuable to the patient's treatment. It is common for treatment regimens to change depending on the patient's response, side effects, laboratory or radiology results, and patient preferences. If any of these changes are needed, treatment can be delayed in the white bagging scenario, as the patient and the physician must await delivery of the appropriate drugs. So this, a lot of times when the sickest of the sick our patients with cancer or getting chemo treatments. A lot of times, if everything doesn't go to plan, these infusion drugs are delivered by specialty pharmacies to these providers, to our hospitals. And if something goes wrong and that patient can't receive that particular treatment or that mix, that mixture of medication that day, they may be sent home if that hospital is not allowed to mix that formula in-house. That is sort of what this bill is about. It is a white bagging bill, and I asked someone what white bagging meant, and it actually is what the medication is delivered in. It's a white bag. So that's how that terminology came about. But I stand ready to answer any questions that I possibly can. But we do have a subject matter expert here today from THA, Mr. Rodney Adams, that is on hand to speak to you and answer any of your questions if you see fit to allow him to come up and talk with you about this important legislation.
I would like to hear from Mr. Adams. So without any objection, we're going to go out of session. Welcome. Can you please state your name and who you represent for the record, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Rodney Adams, Tennessee Hospital Association. I appreciate your time this afternoon and the opportunity to share a little bit of insights and perspective around this bill. I'm sure that you're aware, and as Representative Rutter mentioned, these medications are focused, this bill focuses on medications that are administered in a clinic or in a hospital setting. Many of these medications are used to treat some very common conditions such as Crohn's disease, autoimmune disorders, cancer, and many others. The practice of insurers to limit the source from where these medications can be obtained, commonly referred to as white bagging, because that drug is shipped to the pharmacy from a pharmacy. Many times it's owned by the insurer. And it changes the dynamic between the patient and the healthcare provider. The patient thinks, will my medication arrive on time for my next infusion? Was it handled and stored properly? What if I need a different dose? What if I need a different medication based on my lab or imaging results? Or what if I need, how will this apply to my maximum out of pocket? Will the pharmacy provide some help to my bill like the hospital does? Do they have a charitable care program? Will the insurance even allow the medication to be shipped from the specialty pharmacy if I don't pay, or will the specialty pharmacy allow this to be shipped if I don't pay up front? These are all legitimate questions that before the process of white bagging was implemented were never asked by our patients. Patients knew their provider would have the medication on hand that they needed. They knew their provider stood ready to care for them, whether their labs changed or the imaging results, or whether they had severe nausea or their blood counts were low. They knew that medication was available and ready to be administered. They knew the balance would go toward their medical benefit. They knew if their provider offered some financial assistance, patients knew they would be cared for. Now patients are in the middle of a process that they don't need to be in the middle of. And there are delays that are inherent in this process that patients should not have to experience in some of the most difficult times of their life. House Bill 916 seeks to prohibit the harmful practice of requiring medications to only be obtained from a small network of specialty pharmacies, many times even requiring that the medication be obtained from a pharmacy owned by the insurer. I find it's not pure coincidence that this practice of white bagging has become much more common and prevalent with the vertical integration that occurs between the payers and pharmacy companies. I worked in Tennessee hospitals for 17 years before I joined the Tennessee Hospital Association. While working in those hospitals, my staff and I handled the financial side of healthcare, from scheduling to prior authorizations, case management, all the way through billing and some other areas. I've been blessed to be able to help patients directly understand the complex processes of insurance, the complex processes of how healthcare works. I've also looked at patients in the eyes after they received a diagnosis that made them very scared. I've looked patients in the eyes as they wondered if their authorization would come in or if their medicine would come in time for the for the treatment that they needed. Many times it's the treatment that may save their life. these are not moments that patients should feel more stressed. They're moments when patients need to be supported. They're not moments when patients need to worry about additional patient responsibilities because this may apply to the pharmacy benefit or does it apply to my medical benefit? They're not moments when patients need to worry about if the medicine's going to be there, how much longer I'm going to have to wait. They're moments when we need to be supporting our patients and caring for them in the best way that we can. THA
sorry.
stands in
I'm
full support
sorry.
of House Bill 916.
I'm sorry. I forgot to mention you had 3 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Thank
We stand in support. I'm finishing. I truly appreciate your
Thank you.
opportunity.
Do we have any questions from members or comments? Chairman Hicks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady, and thank you for being here. Really appreciate you and your testimony. My question is, this is one of these bills, I guess, as we come up here into the Insurance Committee where, and I serve on the Health Committee as well, and it's always, you have this group against this group, and somewhere everybody is for the patient. But when I step back and look, I always get lost with where is the patient? Who's taking care of the patient? So in this case, what is actually cheaper? Would it be cheaper for this white bagging to take place, or is it actually cheaper for the hospital? Which side is? Let's talk about the patient. Where's the patient at in all this?
So, Chairman Hicks, I think your question is, which is cheaper for the patient? Is that correct?
We'll start there. Yes.
Yes, sir. For the patient, there's a maximum out of pocket on most everyone's insurance plan, and I'm sure including yours. That maximum out of pocket encompasses things like the CT that they would have as a part of their diagnosis, or procedures, or anything that works up to what their final working diagnosis is that resulted in them needing the care that's been ordered for them, this clinician administered drug. When you're applying those to the maximum out of pocket, the patient winds up meeting that pretty quickly for most of these conditions. And so when infused in the hospital setting, they meet their maximum out of pocket and the patient's not held responsible for any additional. In a white bagging scenario, many times the pharmacy benefit is used. And if you're lucky enough to have a maximum out of pocket on your pharmacy benefit, it's separate from your medical benefit. And so if you have a $5,000 health maximum out of pocket and a $5,000 pharmacy maximum out of pocket, you may need to meet both before your total exposure as a patient, your financial exposure is met. If it was infused, as it was for many years before the process of white bagging was implemented, the $5,000 was all that you would owe.
Okay.
Chairman Hicks. Any-
Thank you. I'm good for now.
Okay. Chairman Lafferty, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And maybe a little bit of a springboard off of that question. We focus on the individual here. We talked about this earlier. This is an insurance question. The pool of insurance is much larger. All of us individuals make up those insurance pools. And when we increase, the dollars are coming from the same source regardless. It's where they end up at the end. The risk ends up being spread amongst all of us that pay premiums for insurance. So where there might be a cost savings for the individual that's in that unfortunate situation to need this, the overall effect is also costs are going up for everybody else that's insured in that pool. Is that accurate?
You're recognized.
Thank you. Representative Lafferty, I understand your question. And healthcare contracts, managed care contracts are open and willing to be negotiated by everyone. And so that amount that's paid for this clinician administered drug is open every time there's a negotiation. And so if the insurer feels that the reimbursement rate is too high, then they are open to negotiate that as a part of the overall contract with the providers. And so I think your question points to, is this adding to the overall cost of care? And I would challenge that it does not. There is waste that is inherent in this system because medications are sometimes shipped that are not able to be administered to another patient. And so overall, I don't know that I could say that we are adding to the cost of care. We are moving money from one place to another into these vertically integrated companies and more is going there. I can say that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Chairman Kumar, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. So we've talked about mainly, well, the economics of it. Kindly touch base on patient outcomes and patient care with or without white bagging.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Kumar. Patient outcomes, I believe, are better when the drug can be administered sooner. Patients who are stressed do not recover as quickly. Many studies have shown that the more stress a patient is under, the worse their health outcomes become. And by removing additional barriers that are created by this process was normally about a 3-step process. Order the medication, mix the medication, administer the medication. It's now as many as 12 steps. And the patient is stuck in the middle of that process. So from an outcomes perspective, Chairman Kumar, I would challenge that outcomes have to be better when the patients experience less stress.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further comments? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. We will now go back into session. Chairman Rudder, do you have any further discussion on your bill?
I would just like to add that this was a business decision by insurers. They pulled the drugs out of the hospitals, driving that business to their affiliated pharmacies. The core of this issue, in my opinion, is also safety issues. Insurance benefit from this business decision at the risk of the patient. Wouldn't it be much better if our hospitals had more control over these drugs, because they order them, they maintain them, they control the supply chain, and they can guarantee a high level of safety to our patients. And what I'm advocating for today is our patients. The bottom line is, let's help these patients get the medication that they need in a timely and safe fashion. And I ask for your support.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments? Chairman Kumar, you're recognized.
Thank you. I noticed that TennCare is excluded from the program. Is that for fiscal note?
Chairman Rudder, you're recognized.
Yes, the TennCare Cover Kids was removed from it, and I am sure that was removed because of the fiscal note.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of sending House Bill 916 to insurance full signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill goes to insurance full.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and committee.
Thank you. We are back to item number 12, House Bill 1402 by Representative Johnson. We have a proper motion and second. Representative, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What this bill does is allows the governor to expand Medicaid. I know we don't talk a whole lot about that up here these days, but Medicaid expansion is still an option for this state. It's an option that has been hugely successful across the country. As a matter of fact, every single study, over 40 studies about the states that have it, are all positive. In states like Ohio, we see them being able to treat 96% of those with addiction, which here in Tennessee, we treat less than 20% with addiction because we do not have access to this and we've turned down those monies. It will be completely paid for the next 8 years. It will add 15,000 well-paying jobs with benefits. It will provide care to 300,000 Tennesseans who desperately need it. Remember, we talk a lot about mental health up here. When you have health care, that's physical health, you also have mental health care. And so this is something that we have had the ability to do and have not done. And we haven't looked at studies like other states that have expanded, like Michigan, where what Medicaid expansion did for them was lift the folks who are about to fall out of the middle class, or those that are the poor working families, lifted them up, gave them more money in their bank accounts, and allowed them to be able to get loans for the first time. And many of them with those loans got cars, which allowed them to get a better job because they didn't have to rely on working only on the bus route. And having their own vehicle allowed them to get better jobs. And it created a huge boon to their economy. And we've seen that all across the country. I believe it's the moral thing to do. I believe it's definitely economically sound for our state, and it will provide care for those who desperately need it, and it will be able to increase. We're putting Band-Aids on mental health care every year, a little bit more across the state, but this would be the single biggest thing that we could do to provide more facilities and more services for those who need mental health care. We also, with being at the very top with maternal mortality, part of the problem is a lot of women, when they decide to have children, they haven't been seeing a doctor every year or a couple of times every year because they don't have access. And so they're not always that healthy when they want to start that family. So right now we're providing a little care at the time that they are pregnant, but the problem is, where we're seeing the problem is the disparities and those women who have not had care throughout, and then they become ready to start that family. There is just no end to the great things and the great outcomes that every other state is seeing, improved medical outcomes from the expansion of Medicaid. And so I believe that this is something that we should consider. And we know that with our current plan, we will not be adding anything close to 300,000 people to the rolls, and we have the ability to do that at no cost to the state. And that's why I'm bringing this legislation.
Do we have any questions from members? Representative Hemmer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Representative, for bringing this important piece of legislation. Do you know how much money Tennessee is foregoing by not expanding Medicaid expansion?
For the last 10 years, $1.4 billion we have refused, where we could have been caring for these folks all along. And initially, this was supposed to be a governor's decision, but two former currently indicted or convicted members took the governor's ability away. And so that's why this is a legislative decision in part, but we could remove that and allow for the governor to make that decision once again, as it was intended.
Any further questions? Representative Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I mean, earlier today, we turned down a few $1 billion. Now we have the opportunity again for, $1.4 billion coming into the state a year. But the previous sponsor of the earlier bill, he spoke about a work requirement. That's who this expansion is going to cover. It's people who work for a living. The people who don't have a job, they've got coverage for the most part. We've got systems in place and programs in place to take care of those people. It's a guy that goes and works 60, 80 hours a week, framing houses, roofing houses, doing the drywall, the independent plumber, the small businessman, electrician. Those people are working their behinds off every day, but they can't afford the high cost of health care in this state and in this country. And those are the people we're turning our backs on. Those are the people that don't have health care in this state, are the ones who are working themselves to death until they die. It's just one major medical crisis and their families in bankruptcy. But those are the people we're turning our backs on in this state. It's not the people who are not working. So if we're concerned about, giving a handout to somebody, won't you give a hand up to the people who are working every single day in this state, and let's help them have health care. Thank you.
Chairman Lafferty, you're recognized.
Can I respond?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you bring that up because what these states, the other states also found, which I think is really a critical situation, is that in addition to that, but folks who are out of work because of medical reasons, and when you said construction, that made me think of that. That's one of the big ones where folks are out because they've hurt their back on a job, didn't have the medical care, but Medicaid expansion and all of these other states have proven to get thousands of people back on the job.
Thank you. Chairman Lafferty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The oratory that we've received from our colleague from Davidson County, I just wanted to take a moment to reply. Europe and European countries, most specifically Ireland, have had national health care much longer, so socialized national health care much longer than we've tried this experiment here in the States. My conversation with him, we talked about wait times. Another way of describing wait times is as rationing. People, these carpenters, these hardworking men and women that suffer some injury and then need some medical care, often can't get, say, a knee replaced for anywhere from 6 months to a year. And by that time, they are on medications that oftentimes turn into be addictive. That doesn't help much. They may or may not ever recover from the addiction, and they're certainly not any better off having to work in that kind of pain. In the country that I live in today, we have got quick access when we need services. Even in the worst case scenarios, people can get treatments when they need them. One of the other things that I wanted to touch on, back to the rationing point, what they've started doing over there in the UK, in Ireland, in England, is if you're smoking, don't bother coming to see us. If you're overweight, don't bother coming to see us. Until you get your weight under control, until you get your smoking under control, we're not going to see you anymore because they've gone broke down this path. Just wanted to share those comments with the committee. Thank you.
Representative.
Yes, and thank you. And I guess what I would have to share are other stories. A dear friend of mine who was on a tour in one of those countries came down with a horrific headache, passed out, went to the hospital. They found a serious brain tumor. This was a principal of a school. They were on a tour with retired principals, and it needed immediate surgery. Had the surgery, had to stay there for a month in recovery, walked out with no bill, and came home with no bill. And so the reality is, to get an appointment with a neuromuscular doctor in Tennessee takes 9 months. To get an appointment with a cardiac rhythm specialist takes at least 6 months. But if I need something done immediately, yes, I can get that done, but you can also get that done in other places as well. So I don't think that making those comparisons, unless you've actually been over there and seen how it works. Another friend was in Canada, needed surgery. I think after he had his surgery, came back, I think he was out $140. I mean, the reality is they take care of immediate things. It might be a little bit longer, but it's no longer than it is in this country. And what we are seeing is every single state that has expanded, positive outcomes across the board.
Representative Capley. The question has been called. Without objection, we are voting on House Bill 874. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, I'm sorry. House Bill 14, we're back on 1402. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The bill fails.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members.
That concludes our calendar. I would like to thank the committee clerk, Desiree White, our legal team, Matt Monday and Carolyn Miller, our research analyst, Ryan Vallone, my assistant, Samantha McCandless, Sergeant at Arms Reuben Sanders, our committee intern Colin Taylor, and all the members of the committee. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve as chair. Before we close, does anyone have any more announcements? Seeing none. The insurance subcommittee is closed, subject to call of the chair. Thank you.